Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Higher or Lower, brought to you by Spreadex, Sporting Index and oddschecker. I'm your host George Ellick, delighted to be joined, as I am every single week throughout the football season. Going to be a long few months, a long winter. Delighted to be joined by Jack Wright and Dan Worth as we look ahead to the weekend's football in the Championship and the Premier League, and we decide if the eventual results of certain spread betting markets will end up higher or lower than the midpoint with Spreadex and Sporting Index. How are you guys?
I wanted to say good, but the Reading FC news this morning has not left me in a great mood. I'll be perfectly honest, it's looking quite bleak for my club at the moment.
It is, definitely is. Sell before we die. Sad news coming out of Reading. I'm very sorry about it. Fingers crossed their takeover goes through soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
How are you? Are you pretty gutted that you're losing your first team coach in Norwich to Stoke?
And possibly goalkeeping coach and analyst.
And analyst. They were all in the stands at Stoke last night. I think I was the
biggest crowd Stoke have ever had.
I think I was the only person in the United Kingdom who isn't a Fleetwood fan or a Stoke fan who chose to watch that game last night. But I did, and they were all in the stands. It was a very empty stand, I would say, but they were all three of those were in it. So
they weren't very inconspicuous.
I might have had a bet in that game, which is why I watched it.
And did you win?
Yeah, backed Fleetwood on the Asian handicap, and they scored a header in the 92nd minute to equalise.
Oh, superb
Beautiful
stuff. Nearly
work.
as good as your goals bets from last night on the spread.
Yeah, that was. Can we not talk about that, please?
Okay.
Okay.
That's to both of you. And
Well,
mind games.
I had a big look at the goals line, goals cubed with Spreadex for the Bayern Munich 9.
No goals in that.
Dynamo Zagreb
9.
2. So, yeah.
And goals disallowed.
Let's not. I can't. I managed to forget about it this morning until about 10 minutes after I woke up, and I remembered that it was the one I left behind.
That's both your moods lower.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, right. Let's get into the action. So, starting with Championship football on Friday night. Currently managerless, but will they be managerful by the time we get to Friday? Possibly, if yesterday's evidence is to come to fruition. Stoke hosting Hull. Hull maybe soon to be managerless. Tim Walter, their new boss, not enjoying a particularly good start to life as Hull manager, coming under some severe pressure. Last seen being beaten 2-0 by Sheffield United. Spreadex here have the supremacy, so this is the favourite by how many goals they will beat the underdog. Stoke the favourites here, given they're the home side. 0.4 is the midpoint, so lower would be a Hull win or a draw. Higher, a home win. We're going higher or lower. 3, 2, 1.
This is not the one I wanted to be on my own for, really, because
Why?
I'm not sure. I've genuinely gone for Stoke here because they're the home side.
Anything else?
No, I could have taken the draw, and that probably also would have been sound reasoning to go lower. But yeah, Stoke being at home, maybe have a new manager in the dugout by then. I know you're a big fan of new manager bounces.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have one. And yeah, Hull have really struggled so far this season, and I don't really see a reason why this game would be any different to any of their other this season, but you guys are going to tell me why it will be.
Jack?
A tough one. Yeah, I just thought this one screamed draw, really, to be honest. That's what I felt. If it was a fixed odds market and I was given a free £10, that's where my money would go, to be fair. I don't think either of them, it goes without saying, that they're not in the best of shape at the moment. I say new manager coming in, obviously a lot of upheaval for Stoke. Bit of a shock, wasn't it? I think generally you get an idea that something's going to happen with these announcements, and that one was, I think, most people were surprised. So I'm going to just throw it over to you, George. Your thoughts on the actual Stoke situation?
Yeah, it's interesting because they lost to Oxford in his last game, and I watched the game on Saturday, and from where I was sitting, it wasn't that big a surprise because they were so bad. Like, I understand from like the bigger picture of things, like they hadn't had that bad a start to the season, but like, watching that game, it was really, really desperate stuff. So in that sense, when I wasn't expecting it, but when the news came through, I was a bit like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. And that's in part why I'm getting against them here, is that even though they've sacked Schumacher, I struggle to think that this was purely the case where Schumacher was doing a really bad job and therefore, you know, it was inevitable that him leaving is going to instill a change. Again, I had the pleasure of watching them last night against Fleetwood, where they were better. Like Tom Cannon came off the bench and missed a couple of good chances to win the game, but they weren't great, and they failed to put away a League Two side over 90 minutes. And with Hull, like I know the results have been very poor so far, and we definitely haven't seen the heart attack football that Tim Walter promised us.
Yeah.
Like, from an attacking standpoint, they look really, really poor. But against Sheffield United, like they were better in possession. They were picked off a couple of times by a side, and Chris Wilder's side very, very comfortable attacking in transition. But they weren't terrible in that game. And I do kind of think they're due a result, basically. Like they have drawn a couple of games already. There is a capability within that side. Like they're not down and out. And yeah, basically, what do I think is more likely, a Stoke win or having both the away side and the draw-on side? I think it has to be those two. I think it would be an impressive and good performance from Stoke to win this game, given the situation that they're in. So that's why I'm going lower. Looking at West Ham-Chelsea now, this is the total goals line. So with SpreadX again, 3.3 is the midpoint. West Ham hosting Chelsea, so lower is 3 or fewer goals, higher is 4 or more. 3, 2, 1.
Your turn.
Goals galore.
Yeah, I think West Ham have been really kind of sneakily poor so far this season. Like I know that results haven't necessarily been that bad, but I think with Lopetegui you anticipate like a level of defensive aptitude. I know they played Man City, so at this stage, like some of the underlying numbers are a little bit misleading, but they're still a fourth for expected goals against, so the fourth worst team in terms of expected goals against. From an attacking point of view, they've been okay, but it's their defensive capabilities that worry me the most. And up against a Chelsea side who, I know their games haven't yet been full of goals if you take out the 6-2 win over Wolves, but I think there are going to be more games like that 6-2. There are going to be more games where it's just absolute carnage because of the way that they're set up by Maresca, because of the attacking talent that they have. And yeah, I think a Chelsea side up against a West Ham team who are yet to show any real defensive aptitude or fortitude is a game where we're going to see lots of goals. I know it's high. I kind of hate always going over higher for when it starts with a 3, but I think in this case it's the way to play it. Jack, why are you going lower?
I think Chelsea are one of those sides at this moment in time where whatever you go for, we obviously got different opinions on this one, or different. We're giving different verdicts on this one, so one of us is going to be right about it, but you kind of try and identify what's going to happen, and it's just very hard because they've had everything so far, haven't they? Wins, draws, loses, unders, both seems to score, both not, and so on. So I've kind of built this around the fact that I think Lopetegui's more pragmatic side is going to come out a little bit against the better opposition. I'm saying with Chelsea, it gets to that point where, as you say, you think there's got to be goals. How they kept a clean sheet against Bournemouth is a perfect example of, if you're on goals in that game, you think, how's that not come in? But we said that last year, exactly the same thing happened, wasn't it? That was a 0-0. It looked like it was going to follow the exact same path. I think, Chelsea just do keep creating lots of chances. They've got obviously lots of attacking talent, and it's just not clicking for them. They do miss a lot of chances. And at that certain kind of point where, this is just a trend that continues until they get settled. I think until they get a settled front 3 or 4, it's probably going to be that players snatching at opportunities, snatching at chances and missing them. And with West Ham, I thought they were terrible in that first half against Fulham. They should have been probably put out of sight a little bit there, to be fair. Did improve after the second half, but then relied on Danny Ings to get the goal for them, which was a surprise in itself, really, when I saw that one pop up. But again, they're a side that have got the attacking talent, but it's just not quite clicking for them at the moment. Fulkrug's obviously out injured. Paquetá was rested after his international duty, so him coming back in will be a benefit. And Somerville on the bench improve things. So it's how, again, they, I think, try and work around that. But I just have that feeling with Lopetegui, it's going to be more of a case of, right, we need to be more solid at the back. Let's be a bit more pragmatic. And that's how I approach that. And I fancy a 0-1 or 2 goal game rather than a 4, 5 or 6.
Dan?
Yeah, I completely agree with Jack.
What a surprise.
Yeah. Like I seem to,
I
every
see
market.
you basically, you just watch Jack's paddle, and as soon as he shows, you just follow up.
I'll go first on the next one.
You're that guy when you pick rock, paper, scissors who waits.
Yeah. You meant after 3.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that Chelsea are going to score a lot of goals this season with the attacking options they have.
Correct.
But until they do it on a regular basis, I think I have to follow the trend that it's not going to happen. So that's largely why I've gone lower here. Obviously, needing 4 goals is quite
what
hard.
about 6-2?
Yeah, but that's the only one, isn't it? And then the City
not
game
very many.
against West Ham is the only one only time this has landed for West Ham. So I just think on the balance of things, it's probably going to be a 3-goal game, and that is obviously a very small winner for Jack and I. So
it's interesting you say it's probably going to be a 3-goal game. They get a pretty good price about that. Exactly 3
yeah,
Get on the rainbow goals.
Yeah, although
midpoint of 10.
not ideal. Oh yeah, it's just gonna end up with.
Well, I could still get on it, just not buy.
Early kick-off, does that have an implication?
It does have an implication. I just don't know what implication it has.
There you go, 3-1 on oddschecker best price 3 goals.
There we go then.
Probably going to be. You think it should be odds on?
Well, I'll be there. 3-1.
You'll be there.
See you next week.
I think in Liverpool.
As in, no, not at the game. I'll be there on that market. Exactly 3 goals.
Right.
Let's go.
Got you. On to Crystal Palace hosting Manchester United is our third game we're going to look at. Total goal minutes here. I'm having an absolute shocker with this one at the moment. Palace hosting United. United obviously racking up 7 in the Carabao Cup
back.
in midweek. Home to Barnsley.
So
Darrell Clark's Barnsley have had a shocking week. First time
Like that.
First time United under Ten Hag have scored 5 goals.
Oh.
They scored 7. Up against the Palace side, who started the season not great under Glasner. So do we think this is going to be lots of goals and late goals, or few goals and no goals? 160 is the midpoint of SpreadX. So higher for lots and late, lower for few and early. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, I love
There we
it.
go.
All in agreement.
All aboard.
And that means you've gone first once, I've gone first once. Over
My
to the main
go,
man.
yeah. I mentioned this last week about feeling comfortable with a certain line and watching a game going, oof, yeah. I think this line's quite low for these two sides, to be honest. Well, obviously why I've gone higher.
Yeah.
Would I want to be sitting there in the second half hoping that these sides are going to defend my lower suggestion? No, absolutely not. I just feel that there is goals in it. So I think Palace have had defensive issues throughout the campaign so far. There was uncertainty, of course. Anderson's gone, and then I always get his name wrong, Gahey.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, and I have to really think about it. Obviously, he stayed, but it's just been unsettling, I think, and that's kind of transferred through. But they are extremely exciting going forward. I think Eze's, again, taking his game to another level. And I've been so impressed with Mateta, and I think that, you know, a striker that we thought might have just been having a bit of a hot streak just seems just that much more composed now. I love that goal he scored last weekend. It was a beautiful, deft finish, the one nearly ruled out, but VAR came to his rescue, and I thought that was a superb finish. So he's now become a consistent performer. I think Nketiah has come in, and that's a really interesting addition as well. We had loads of shots last week, got on the score sheet last night as well in the Cup. So it's always good to get that out of the way. So I think they've got plenty going forward and a little bit shaky at the back. And for that, you can probably read Man United as well. So I don't think there's too much difference in that. And I think that tails up a little bit, as you said. 3 goals last weekend. Could have been different if that penalty had gone in, of course, but it didn't. So they rode that and did well. And then 7 last night. And regardless of the opposition, I think just the fact they're getting some of their key men on the score sheet and in a bit of confidence can only do them good. So, yeah, I've got all the stats for how late the goals are. There's plenty of them. I won't go through them now. I'll hand it over to you guys. You can tell me and back up my suggestion as well.
Dan?
I think this is going to be the most fun fixture of the weekend.
Really?
Which is probably not that
Fun
controversial,
in
but there's
the sun.
obviously, yes.
It's sunny.
It will be sunny.
Yeah.
That's
how
a
did you
great...
get on sunny go last weekend?
Honestly, I couldn't remember what it was. I'm assuming badly, given that you've brought it up.
Son.
You're smarter than I give
Sonny.
you credit for, mate. You really are.
Thank you.
I just think there's going to be lots of goals here. Like, you've got two teams that are not the most astute defensively. As Jack mentioned, United are finding their feet a bit going forward, with particularly with the likes of Rashford, getting over that drought. Scoring 2 goals last night and getting on the score sheet against Southampton. But yeah, as you said as well, Jack, like looking at that Southampton game, I can see this being quite similar in that Southampton had their chances, one from the penalty spot, which is what it is, and Palace will get them too. But with the likes of Mateta and Eze and the rest, I back them to score. So I think this is definitely a both teams to score situation, and I just see goals. So with that in mind, I think 160 is a fair few lower than I probably would price this.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really believe I'm saying this, and it's got nothing to do with last night's game, but I'm like sneakily thinking that United might actually be improving a bit. And I think, especially from an attacking point of view, I think this is an interesting game where it's watching United so far this season. It seems to me like, for all of his stubbornness last season, Ten Hag is trying to get them to play a bit more and trying to get them to dominate the ball a bit more and to look after the ball a bit better. Like the fact that I know Game State played a big part in it, but the fact that they have more possession than Liverpool at home is a massive, massive switch from what we've seen generally, where they've looked to set up in games to attack and transition and attack on the counter. Up against the Palace team, who under Glasner are also, even though they're not having the best time of it at the moment, trying to dominate the ball and trying to keep the ball well. And therefore, we've got two teams in my mind who are trying, like neither of them are going to look set up to defend in this game. Both of them, I think, regardless of game state, are going to try and play a more possession style, anyway, where they're kind of doing it and they're in a moment where they're trying to implement that style, which may mean that they aren't able to do it that successfully. If you look at expected goals this season, United are third with 7.9. So they're massively underperforming their XG. They're having scored 5, so already 3 behind, which is significant after only, 4 or 5 games of the season. They top the big chances missed so far this season as well on 12, 2 clear of anybody else. I think United, as Barnsley found out last night, but I think United are kind of a good finishing streak away from clicking to an extent, especially from an attacking point of view. I think this is a game where we're going to see goals. I think United games generally this season have been pretty end-to-end, and I think this will follow that. So
late goals have been a theme. I'll just quickly mention that United's games, 3 of their 4 have seen a goal 87 minutes or later. 2 of the games have had in added on time. The only one that hasn't was that Liverpool game you mentioned, which probably there should have been some later goals. But kind of Liverpool to kill that one off. And Palace have had 3 of their 4 games have seen a goal 72 or later, and obviously last weekend saw one in added on time as well. So, and I think with this, it could well be a case of being very stretched, and one of these sides is going to be chasing it late into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, we've got Brighton against Nottingham Forest. We're doing the first match goal here with Sporting Index. This is the time which the first goal is scored. 34.5 is the midpoint here, 33 to sell, 36 to buy. So what that means is that if you go lower, you think there will be a goal within the first 34 minutes, basically. Higher means the first goal will be after the 34th minute or 0-0 at full time. Everyone ready?
Yeah, ready.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, the same.
All in agreement. Who'd have thought it?
No, who'd have
Yeah, I
thought
know, that is a bit of a
Who
surprise.
would have thought it? Dan, you think it's going to be 0-0?
I think it's definitely going to be 0-0 at half-time.
Right.
When I say definitely, it's definitely not definitely.
Definitely.
But it's just my favourite word,
You've
isn't
got
it?
this solved this weekend, haven't you?
Yeah.
Exactly 3 goals in
I've
one
been
game.
here before.
Yeah.
I've seen it all. This is 0-0 at half-time.
Nice one.
Can't tell you how it ends, though. Just because
Doesn't
that would be
matter,
boring for everyone, wouldn't it? The averages so far this season all kind of lean our way. Average time of Brighton scoring at home is like bang on that line, which is obviously probably why it's that line. But all of the others, 71st minute for Forest scoring their first goal away from home, and they're obviously yet to concede away from home. And if Brighton are to concede first, their average is on the hour. So, yeah, either on this line or our side of this line. So I'm pretty happy with high. As I say, 0-0 at half-time would be a nice winner here.
0-0 at half-time would be a nice winner. I basically think that both teams have been pretty solid defensively. Like, I think Forest in particular have been unbelievable in terms of their defensive work so far. Like, we saw them obviously last time out beat Liverpool 1-0. But if you look at their XG conceded so far this season, despite having played Liverpool, is the second best in the whole division. So their 3 expected goals conceded in their games so far, only conceding 2 goals. So their good defensive record is based on being a very good side defensively. And I think under the new manager, Brighton looked to be a completely different, similar in terms of like possession heavy and the rest of it, but actually when it comes to their style of play, way more pragmatic than what we've seen previously. Like looking to basically defend, have a solid defensive base and build from there. So, yeah, I am very much in agreement that this will be, I think cagey is the wrong word, but I can see it developing into a game where Brighton dominate the ball. Forest are very happy out of possession, not many chances, and maybe it'll come later where the game opens up, where we see some goal-mouth action. Jack?
Yeah, fully agree with that. I think the Forest side at the moment is taking a little bit of a shape of that Nuno Wolves side that we saw a few seasons ago when they actually ended up qualifying for Europe. So I think it's based on the same foundations. Really, really strong, as you say, fantastic defensive record. To go to Anfield and keep a clean sheet, let alone to go and win, is absolutely superb. I think Milenkovic and Murillo are two really, really strong central defensive pairing. Yates and James Ward-Prowse in the middle it's got a good dynamic about it as well. And in Chris Wood, I think they've got that old school target man with plenty of pace around him for launching on the counter should they need it. And I think teams are aware of that as well, which does make that a little bit tighter. So, yeah, I think Brighton obviously had plenty of efforts against Ipswich last time out. Muric was man of the match, but I couldn't find a way through. They did miss João Pedro in that one. And I've got 0-0 vibes about this one, certainly for later into the game. I think Forest will certainly keep that kind of Liverpool template and look to use it here. And as you say, Brighton are a little bit more pragmatic than have been in the past. So, yeah, absolutely happy to take this one on and wait for the late goals, if any.
If any. Who cares? If we get past 34
point.
minutes, you turn it off.
Exactly.
Job done.
Exactly.
On to the second biggest game of the weekend after Bristol City against Oxford United, which is Saturday. Manchester City, what?
Yep.
Well, I mean, beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Man City against Arsenal. Manchester City are the favourites for this one. This is obviously a game between the two sides we anticipate will be fighting it out for the Premier League title. Arsenal off the back of an impressive win against Spurs, despite injury and suspension issues. But yeah, they're the underdogs coming into this one. City, 0.65 is the midpoint of their supremacy here for the purpose of higher or lower. Lower would be an Arsenal win or a draw. Higher would be a Manchester City win. Are we going higher or lower for the big game Sunday, 4:30 kickoff? Yeah. I can't watch it.
Super Sunday.
My godson's birthday. Shambles. Higher or lower? 3, 2, 1.
Oh, my
Is that
own.
just a diversifier? You're like, you know what you're going to do.
Yeah, it's just for content, isn't it?
Right.
It's just for the content. Yeah, it's like back to the rainbow goals again. Tough one to call, isn't it? But a huge game. Can you see any other sides in the title race, or is it just these two?
I think you have to. I think it's complacent to say that Liverpool aren't in the title race, personally.
Yeah.
And others could obviously force their way in if others slip up. So no, but obviously they're likely to.
Yeah, and been superb. I think it comes down to these two, but yeah, I think there'll be one or two sides possibly that will push it later into the season, and then it'll be down to these at the end. I don't know when they meet in the reverse fixture, but anyway, this one for now. I'll base this on the fact of City have been a little bit vulnerable to conceding a goal. I think it's now 6 of their last 6 Premier League home games they have conceded. Of course, this season they've conceded, I think it was about 8 minutes in against Ipswich and then got 22 seconds against Brentford. So, and my thought process on that is if they do concede again against Arsenal, which of course Arsenal you would suggest have got the stronger attack than any of those sides that I've mentioned, can City then go and score 2 goals against this Arsenal defence, which is absolutely rock solid, watertight. I saw it compared this week to the Jose Mourinho Chelsea side and also the George Graham Arsenal side. And mixed with a bit of a hybrid there. It's the two, obviously, defensive processes.
A lot of people watching like, George
Graham, yeah.
Dan's like, I'm going to smile, I've no idea.
Yeah, have a look. On
Who he is?
Is that before YouTube though?
That probably is before YouTube. Yeah. You'll get that little square box rather than the widescreen. So anyway, proper good defender. Yeah, defensive setup. Anyway, I'll move on before I show my age too much more. But I think that performance against Tottenham emphasised that there are more strings to Arteta's bow and his managerial setup than just going out and out passing and out attacking sides. So yeah, I feel that trying to score a couple of goals. I think Arsenal will score here. So I think if Man City have got to score 2, I think they might struggle, even with the cheat code that is Erling Haaland closing in on double figures for the season already. So, simple as that, really. I just think it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a massive game, and I'm happy to have the draw on side as well as a possibility of Arsenal sneaking a win.
Dan?
Haaland.
Why is he wrong?
Holland.
0-0 last season, wasn't it?
It was. No, but Holland scored more goals than any other team in the Premier this season. Which is quite wild. And I was actually thinking about this.
But surely it just cannot continue.
No,
Is he going to score 80 goals this season?
I don't know. I'd probably go lower though if I was having a bet.
Look on your face if I was actually asking you to answer that.
Don't stitch me up like that.
Okay.
No, but I was actually
It was
thinking.
unsustainable.
Yeah. Maybe not in this game, but I would be quite interested to see a supremacy market of Haaland.
He's going to peter out, isn't he?
Another team, because at 0.65, I'd imagine in most weeks I'd be buying.
Yeah.
Maybe not here because, as you said, Arsenal are pretty good at the back, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Very good. But City are the only team in Europe to boast a 100% league record already this season. I think they look as good as they've ever been. The hearing's underway now as well, so they're going to have their foot on the pedal, just want to keep going, keep winning matches. They're the home side, only need to win 1-0, and they're just very, very, very good. So I'm backing Man City to win, so yeah, it's a higher.
Big part of this, though, that seemingly isn't getting much. Well, it hasn't. I think there are certain Arsenal fans who are frustrated about it. Is that Arsenal travel to Atalanta tomorrow?
Yeah.
And City play at home on Wednesday night. So I say tomorrow. They were recording this on Wednesday. City play at home Wednesday night against Inter. Arsenal travel to Italy on Thursday night. The game's on Sunday afternoon. That is, I think, plays a massive part in this game. Like I think it is, not only the extra day's rest, but also the journey and the trip they're having to make. And with the Odegaard being out, I just think this is a game that City have to be more likely to win than not, with everything taken into account. Like they're still so strong, and they've started the season looking as good as ever. I get the point about Arsenal's defensive unit, but I kind of get the feeling that City probably only have to score once here to win this game, because I just don't think Arsenal are going to be able to trouble them too much. So I'm very much with City, albeit it wouldn't surprise me at all if Arsenal are able to challenge them and go all the way and win the league. But just in terms of the situation around this game, with City's home advantage, even if it was midpoint was 1.1, I think I'd probably still lean maybe higher and bet the -1. Maybe. I'd probably rather bet the -1 on the fixed odds, to be honest, than do that. Right, nap time. That's what I say to my daughter. Dan, why don't you lead us with your best bet of the weekend?
My best bet of the weekend is not actually that exciting, but it's the line that
brilliant.
I think is very underpriced.
So turn it off.
It's buy of total goals in Leicester versus Everton at 2.95.
Why don't you do a funkier goals line then?
Because they weren't available when I looked, because we were recording a bit earlier, because somebody's away for the weekend.
Mine is available. I'm not away for the week, I'm back on Friday.
You're away for the
Back on Friday?
The wedding's on Thursday.
Tomorrow?
Yeah. I've got
Better
a
get out there. Got your suit ready?
7:30 train. Well, I mean, I have a suit.
It's just not
What do
ready.
you mean, is it ready?
Well, dry
What,
cleaned
do you
and
go there, like-
steamed and ready to go
Nice.
with your Oxford United tie.
It's in my... No tie tomorrow.
No tie? Huh?
Well, the groom
Good
says
weather.
he's wearing a tie. Yeah, it's nice in Glasgow.
Yeah.
I think I might be the first person to ever wear a linen suit in Glasgow tomorrow.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to seeing pictures, mate.
Sure.
Look very good. This line's copped in every game that Everton have played so far this season, and as we all know, absolute chaos in their games so far. Throwing away 2-goal leads in both of their last 2 games. 5 in both of them. I'm not actually quite sure why this is below 3, unless I'm missing something glaringly obvious. But Everton have conceded at least 3 in their last 4 matches in the league. Leicester have scored and conceded in every game, so it's another one where I think both teams score. So just need one more goal. As I say, that's why it's not that exciting, because if there is 3 goals here, it's very small profit. But I do think it has the potential to go. Yeah, protecting the lead. Yeah, go for the boring options. But it has potential to go 4 or 5 goals here, and which would obviously be a bigger profit. But yeah, at 2.95, I'm buying.
You're buying. I'm doing a goals bet as well, but mine's in Southampton against Ipswich. I'm buying goals cubed. So
Nice,
the amount of goals
Way
times
more
by
exciting.
each other 3 times. So 53 is the buy price. Well, the midpoint is what? Like 49.5. Although I guess you haven't do the buy price. Obviously, from an attacking point of view, these 2 teams haven't started particularly well, but I kind of feel like playing against each other, this goes back to basically being a game between 2 recently promoted Championship sides, where both of their defensive issues so far this season, Ipswich top for XG against Southampton 3rd, will still be at play, but they're going to be able to play their own game rather than having to, we've seen particularly with Ipswich, having to really shelve their attacking endeavours and look to be much, much more defensively solid, which hasn't really worked but not really seen them have much of the board at all. Saints really impressive from an attacking point of view against United in their game last time out before they missed the penalty and things completely turned on their head. Both of these teams have shown in terms of their attacking output that they have good attacking players against poorer defences, and that's exactly what this is. So we've seen loads of Saints and Ipswich games last season spiral, and I think this could be one where we see a lot of end-to-end action, especially with both teams knowing that for their survival hopes, 3 points here would be a huge benefit, both in terms of picking up the points themselves, but also taking 3 points off the other.
Indeed.
So goals cubed is the amount of goals scored in the game times cubed. So like 3 would be 27, 4, 64, 5, 125,
Lovely.
and so on and so forth.
Gorgeous.
Jack.
I'm also going with the goals angle.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm going into the Championship.
Who are you going to do here?
Well, we did have a little chat beforehand, didn't we? I think we're both on the same angle as far as we were looking at bookings in a couple of Premier League games, but we can't quite pull the trigger on that one yet. So I'm going to stick with what I know. Well, I think I know anyway. I'm going to Norwich versus Watford.
Nice.
And my line is the first match goal line.
So.
And I'm going lower. Yeah. So 35.5 is the midpoint on this one. Norwich, 1 clean sheet so far in the league this season, 2 games they failed to score. I don't know how they failed to score last weekend. Well, I do, they didn't put the ball in the back of the net. But they had lots of chances, and it wasn't. And Watford, 1 clean sheet and 1 game where they failed to score as well. So, but the key element here is I think there's 2 defences that are vulnerable against 2 attacks that can score goals. And the trend over the course of the start of the campaign for both has been early goals. Looking at Norwich, 6 of their 7 games across all competitions and all venues have seen a goal before this midpoint, and 3 of their 3 home games have seen a goal before this midpoint. Watford, 6 of their 7 across all venues, all competitions have been below this midpoint, and 2 of their 2 away games, simple as that. So you look at some of the Watford goals in the last 3 league games, there was a goal in the second minute, and fourth minute. Fourth minute also for Norwich last weekend as well. But yeah, so it's been pretty fast starts for both these sides and a combination of scoring and conceding early. So I think somewhere along the line, one of them can come to the party. As I said, creaky defences against pretty exciting attacks on their day. And I'll be there to cheer on.
There we go.
A creaky man talking about creaky defences.
Exactly right, yeah. As I said, keeping to what I know.
Yeah, and it's a nice anniversary for you this weekend. Do you want to give a message to your...
It is indeed. I know she's watching. Hi, yeah. 6 years now.
6?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Congrats, mate.
Yeah, I was only in my 30s when we got together, but anyway.
13 years for me coming up.
13?
In December, yeah.
Wow.
Married for 3.
Oh, fair play to her. She's done a great job putting up with you for
I
that.
thought you were going to say she done a great job with finding
the best EFL pundit,
I'm the
as I've
lucky
said
one.
over on Twitter over last week before he jinxed my team.
Jinx. It's one of the weirdest things I think is working in like football media is how like I had loads of messages from Leyton Orient fans off the back of that game thanking me, being like thank you so much for saying we're rubbish because it's I do think there are people out there who genuinely think that like what people say about them in like media actually impacts what happens. Like you've cursed us.
Yeah, and you get the replies like, "Oh, that's all the motivation the players need. Get that in the dressing room."
But that I kind of understand. Like I once we used to do 4-4-2s, 1-24s, and we had Wickham 24th in League One the season that they went up, and I know that Gareth Ainsworth genuinely pulled off that piece of paper and stuck it up in the dressing room wall, and that might have an impact.
Yeah, mate, you're impactful.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I don't have some weird, no one has a weird like spell over clubs.
The fact that both of us had it as our best bet of the week
I know.
just was outstanding.
Yeah.
Not this week.
Anyway, enough of that stuff. Let's finish.
Yeah, why not?
Let's go home. Thank you very much to Jack. Thank you very much to Dan,
Thank
as ever,
you.
for sharing their tips, thoughts, and insight with us on this week's episode of Higher or Lower. We'll be back again next week. We're going to have a leaderboard next week. There have been some teething issues, mainly that Dan did a leaderboard. I had an unbelievable nap last week with bookings in the North London Derby, and I only got 3 points for it. So I think there was an issue going on there. So we're gonna correct it.
We'll rectify it.
But it's fair to say that at the moment Dan is ahead, Jack is second, and I'm third. So we have to rectify that as well before we actually publish leaderboard. See you next week. Make sure that you sign up for a new account with Sporting Index or Spreadex. You can find links in the descriptions to this show. There is a new customer offer as well there that you can check. Check the T's and C's, and do remember that losses can exceed your initial deposit. Check out oddschecker for your fixed odds betting needs ahead of the weekend sport, and whoscored.com have you covered for all of your stats research as well. See you next week. Enjoy the football, and please ensure that you gamble responsibly.